Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Let's talk about a video that was requested so many times, one of my most requested videos. How do you kind of stand out to an avoidant so that they don't leave? A lot of people are afraid avoidants will leave because a lot of them do. And so, what are some ways that you can reduce those triggers, is a better way to put it, right? How to reduce those triggers within the relationship so they don't feel that deactivation to go ahead and leave and then later regret it and then come back and the cycle kind of repeats. We don't want that. So how can we make sure that doesn't happen? Well, we can't necessarily make sure of anything, but we can really reduce those chances. And today we're going to talk about it, okay? And the very first one is actually that you stay relatively calm when you are upset. That doesn't mean you have no emotions, because that's not healthy either. We want to be in a way that's palatable to your partner while still conveying some way for them to challenge themselves as well. You don't want everything easy for your partner because they are not healthy either, right? We want everybody to heal and everybody to be as happy as possible and as stable as possible. And we can't always do that if we placate, right? So let's say you're upset that they forgot to call you when they said that they would. And it was really important. It was an important conversation and they forgot. You bring it up. That doesn't mean you're not disappointed. You bring it up and say, I expected that you would call me. I want to talk about this and have a clear-headed and communicative discussion. Whatever it is, you're coming across as disappointed. You certainly are, but you're not screaming at them. You're not yelling at them. You're not saying you forgot. You don't care. I knew that was the case. Why do I even bother? You're not saying it like that. You're saying, this is something that's upsetting me. I expect us to have a conversation about it. Let's go ahead and do that. You might even say, if this is not the right time, let me know what time is a good time. You're not saying, I'm going to throw this away. It's not that big of a deal. I'm going to bottle up my feelings. No, you're saying you want to have a calm discussion. You want to be honest about how you feel, but you also want it to be productive. And you want to get the result that you're looking for, obviously, which is why you're staying calm. Because you know your partner who's an avoidant is not going to give you the result you're looking for, or the result that's better for them either, the relationship in general, if they're emotionally charged. And which is why you're coming across as calm, because you want what you're asking for, do you not? And they want to give you that. And so you want to have that by being calm. The next one is that you're honest when you want something, even when you're too shy and you're still afraid to ask for it, you still push for it. Now, a lot of you guys are anxious, preoccupied, or fearful avoidance. I'm not trying to pick on you at all, but I do want you to know a lot of you guys do this, okay? You're afraid to ask for something. You think that if you ask, it's going to set your partner off. You're afraid that your needs are not really that important. So you guys do this a lot. Sometimes that can help, but a lot of times it's not helping in the long run. So what can be more beneficial to the relationship is actually being honest with what you want, even if you're too shy, even if you're too afraid, even if you're afraid of being rejected. An example could be, let's say you want, Christmas is coming up, so let's use that as an example. Let's say you want, I don't know, a bracelet for Christmas. One of those, there's this new one trending, that little like 4-leaf clover thing. I don't even know, y'all. That one, right? Maybe you're saying that you want that, or you want a nail polish set. You want something. It doesn't even have to be expensive, right? You're just saying, I want something. And some avoidants are pretty picky or tricky about gifts, depending, right? They don't like gifts, and so they don't want to give you one because then they're indebted to you. Some avoidants are like that, not all. And so that may be something you want, but you know it's a little bit of a trigger point. What is the benefit of bringing it up, though? Do you guys know what the benefit is? You're challenging your partner, and you're also reducing your own tension towards them, because there is a chance they can say yes. Or at the very least, they can realize they disappointed you. So next time around, they can show up a little bit better. Avoidants don't like disappointing people. Actually, that's why they're so harsh towards their disappointment, because they're avoiding their own feelings. And so what can very much benefit this relationship is when you're honest about what you want, even if it takes a little bit longer, because you want to give them time to prove otherwise. Avoidants actually really like doing that. It makes them feel very accomplished. And so even if you don't get it the first round, maybe next year you will. And I think that's very important. You give your partner a chance, but also give yourself a chance to get that opportunity. The next one is actually that you don't rush to fill silence, okay? This can be in terms of in person. This can be over text. But this is very important, because avoidant individuals actually are able to sometimes feel closer to you when they're able to have a good balance between that silence and space and connection, okay? Often it's also because avoidance, especially dismissive avoidance, they can get really caught up in hobbies and when they're invested in their hobbies, they actually prefer not having too much other things going on, different conversations going on. And so let's give an example because we were just talking about Christmas, okay? Let's say your avoidant partner is getting really invested in their Christmas tree, right? They're really spending a lot of time decorating it. Maybe they've taken hours just picking the ornaments, making sure it's perfect, the lighting, the skirt, everything. They want the presents to match. They're just really specific about what they want under their tree, on their tree, everything like that. And maybe you've done so as well, but maybe you're a little bit more streamlined with your tree. So your tree's done. They're still taking hours and hours and hours on their tree. During that time, you are aware that that's what they're doing, so you give them that time and maybe just text them before bed. You are letting them be comfortable with that silence and you yourself being calm in the silence. But another example is if you're in person. Maybe you guys are just laying together and watching TV. You don't have to always say something, because what ends up happening is your partner will feel safer knowing that you guys can be in a long-term relationship or get married, because they know that they're not always going to be the most talkative person. They don't always know what to say or always what to do. So if you can appreciate their silence, they actually will probably feel like you're the one for them. Another example is driving in the car together. You guys don't always have to talk when you're driving in the car. Just appreciating that silence can really help. The next one is you actually see the good in your partner without making excuses. This is tricky, and a lot of people get the balance wrong, right? A lot of people think they want to make excuses for their partner because they do care about them. But at the same time, if you make excuses, you're actually not helping them heal. And they also might look down on you to some extent subconsciously, because they also know they have things to work on, right? So if you're making excuses, it's going to make them feel like you're not able to speak up for yourself. However, seeing the good in them regardless is very helpful. So let's say, for example, you know your partner struggles with commitment. You might say something along the lines of, I appreciate how, commitment forward you've been as of recent years. I still want you to lean more into that, but I'm noticing you're much more commitment forward, and I think that's a huge step, right? So saying you're much more commitment forward is very comforting, because it allows them to feel like you see my change, and also it makes them feel like, okay, I can change. This is very important, okay? The next one is you actually give your partner space without punishing them or holding it against them. It allows them to recharge, pursue their interests, and have that alone time. It also makes them feel like you're not controlling. And a lot of avoidants do not like being controlled. It makes them very uncomfortable. And so this is a very imperative, important way for individuals to feel that you truly care about him or her for who they are, but also that you're able to add to the relationship. Because what can happen is, if you're giving them space, there's a part of them in their mind that thinks you're also doing your own thing as well, because that's what they do when they're in space, doing their own thing. And so whatever you might be doing, subconsciously they might think, okay, I'm curious what he or she is doing. I want to learn from them. And that can be very helpful as well. The next one is that you're supportive. You're not controlling, okay? You might say something like, I believe in you. I'm here if you need me. If you want to talk, I'm available. Otherwise, I'll let you decompress. You allow them to be themselves, and that feels very comfortable. The last one is that you don't play any sort of games. You don't do delayed responses on purpose. You don't do jealousy tactics. You don't test them and say, why aren't they saying this, but you're not saying it directly. And I know some of you guys do that. I read your comments. Some of you guys say, I don't want to say this. I want him to say it first, or her. But that's not always healthy, because that is playing games. I know you don't mean it like that, but it's all you're going to do is get built up frustration that it doesn't happen, because they have no idea that's what you're asking for. So let's go ahead and summarize, and then we'll wrap it up. The first one is that you stay relatively calm when you're upset. The next one is you're honest about what you want. Even if you're a little bit scared to admit it, you take your time, but you do show up. The next one is you don't rush to fill the silence. The fourth one is that you see good in your partner without making excuses. The fifth one is you allow them to have space without punishing them afterwards. The sixth one is you're supportive. And the seventh one and the last one is you don't play games. I hope this video was helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I will see you in the next one.